Friends, this is Jeff. Lots of stuff going on for us this summer. First, as you will see in this interview, we are starting to do work on mistyping, and we're looking for folks to interview. If you or someone you love has really struggled to land on a type, we want to talk with you. We would ask you lots of questions, go through the mistyping guide in the back of our new book, and we would be recording our conversation for the sake of others. If that sounds like you, or if someone you really care for is struggling to find their type and would be interested, go sign up for a free membership at aroundthecircle.org and just direct message us. We will make the conversation enjoyable, upbeat, hopefully land in a place where the language of Enneagram opens up for you. And so that's our first big announcement. Second, TJ and I are overly jazzed about how our audiobook came out. Eventually, the fine folks at Audible will post it, but for now, the full 10-hour deep dive into our new book is up at aroundthecircle.org. It's not just reading down the book, it's me and TJ walking through, commenting on everything in the book. Real unique experience. I hope you get a chance to see it. Sign up for a membership, listen to, I suppose, not only the audiobook is there, but all of our full deep dives. Most of our interviews go twice as long as what we post here. You can see our videos, you can get tickets to upcoming events, and you can just be privy to all the good stuff that we're going to be doing in the coming months. Paid memberships and free memberships, you're going to get lots of stuff. Lastly, as I just said, our first book, Around the Circle, is now available on Amazon. I could not be more pleased with how the quality came out. It is longer than you will be anticipating, and part of that is because we added an extra 80 pages to the back for typing. For example, there are 45 different extensive mistyping charts. So if you or someone you love is looking to see the difference between 5s and 9s, 2s and 7s, 1s and 3s. We have a huge section devoted to helping you find your type. This is only available in the print version. Take a look. I'll put samples up on aroundthecircle.org so that you can kind of see what we're talking about. But really excited to get this into people's hands, especially for those of you who are a little bit more advanced and really want to help other people find their type. So, friends, very grateful for you, cheering for your summer, and may all good things be yours. I'm Jeff Cook.
And I'm TJ Wilson.
And this is Around the Circle.
I'm walking slowly, I'm taking my time. All I could talking is starting to rhyme. I'm letting go of lonely, letting go of strife. I just can't get enough of this beautiful life.
The Enneagram is a map of the human personality. It's a tool for navigating relationships. It creates language for what motivates us and helps us look at the way we look at everything else. Most importantly, the Enneagram's a mirror because sometimes you need help seeing yourself. My name's Jeff Cook. I'm a longtime professor of philosophy in Greeley, Colorado. With me is Lindsey Faith. Lindsey and I are talking for the first time about typing. Should I introduce you differently?
No, it's fine. That's my middle name, and it delights me to hear it. Actually,
Perfect.
So yeah, that's
it's like your mom yelling at you from the other room.
No, actually, I just think it's so sweet. My mom never used our middle names that way. When we were in trouble, she only used our middle names sweetly. So
my mom is from Texas, and I heard my middle name occasionally when I was doing something I shouldn't have been. Lindsey and I are going to do the first of what I hope is a long series of discussions on typing and mistyping. Lindsey is a part of an excellent podcast on Enneagram called Fathoms, well worth checking out. But she has a mistyping experience. I don't actually know anything about your story aside from the fact that this happened recently, yeah?
Yeah. Well, Jeff, you'll have to go back and listen to that episode. Yeah, we did sort of an official conversation around that. Yeah, it's pretty recent as far as me officially embracing a new Enneagram style.
So not only were you studying Enneagram for yourself, you were on a podcast actually teaching Enneagram.
Yeah.
And discovered at some point, I assume, hey, wait a second. So you started out, what are the two types? You started as a what and found out that you are actually a...
Yeah, I started as a type 2. and discovered that I resonate more fully with type 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's after almost a decade of studying, teaching, talking about. I mean, there are interviews of me on other podcasts talking about being a type 2. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a number that I really explored deeply for a number of years.
Do you find that was, even though you mistyped, was that a good experience? Or is it the case that you look back and you say, oh, it's kind of wasted?
I have some tension around it. I don't think anything was wasted. I did a lot of really important inner work. I just feel like I sort of did it through a side door, and it may have gone faster and been more effective if I had gone right through the front door. But I was also in a season of my life where the themes of type 2 were lifting to the surface. And so,
yeah.
and they were lifting to the surface in pretty maladaptive ways that were really getting in my way. So it was like, who cares if it was the right label or not? I had some handles for working with my actual lived daily experience, and I learned a lot and I grew a lot. And I also think that it was just a good catalyst for developing some really, really important self-awareness skills and tools.
Yeah, good. Well, what got you into the Enneagram in the first place? So you were drawn to this, yeah?
Yeah, I actually got into the Enneagram because I didn't want to be on the outside of what everyone was talking about. I was like, this is like the super cool thing that's happening right now. And I came in the way a lot of people do, through sort of the psycho-spiritual model of using it in spiritual spaces as a way to connect to deeper ways of listening to God, deeper ways of understanding God in you, God through you, things that God wants to do in your life, essentially. And that was really impactful and meaningful at the time, especially as someone raised in American Christianity. There's a lot of things you're taught to put blinders on and just be
right.
like, don't look at that part of yourself. That's not good. That's not holy. That's not going to get you to heaven. So you just ignore it. And so it was really effective in helping me develop, I mean, you could call it a theology around inherent goodness, and everything about me I can embrace. I don't have to be scared of it. It's just stuff I get to be curious about. And, you know, in hindsight, thinking of myself as a type 7, that invitation to be curious about myself, I think, really pulled me in. Like, wait, you mean I don't have to shut this curiosity down? I don't have to stop asking questions? You mean I can ask more questions? You know, it was lovely.
So I don't know if I said that. You discovered that you're actually a type 7.
Yeah.
I assume it's the case that for a lot of folks, well, specifically women who are raised with certain religious traditions in America, typing as a 2 maybe, or mistyping as a 2 might be common, because there is a perception in some parts of our culture where that's kind of what you should look like.
Yeah.
More servant-hearted, more reactive, etc. Is that how things rolled for you?
Oh yeah, you're nailing it. Yeah. And I don't think it's something that we give enough attention to working in the Enneagram field. Is like, if you have a woman in front of you who is typing as a 2, just go ahead and see if you can falsify that claim, because it's highly likely that, especially depending on their stage in life, like me, I was a young wife, I had young children, and I was serving in the church with my husband. And so there's so much of that just shoves you into boxes where you're behaving in ways that the literature describes 2s as behaving.
Yeah.
But getting underneath that and seeing what was under that behavior was a lot trickier. It was a lot trickier. There was a lot of overlays masking what was going on in me.
I suppose that's where my mind would go first, is 2s and 7s do share some stuff. The first thing that comes to my mind is that they generally solve problems with kind of a positive outlook. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that. And I also think the difference between a 2 and a 7 and one thing that helped me go, I think this is more 2-ish than, or more 7-ish than 2-ish, is I don't feel like I need to do anything for you. Like, if you're telling me you're going through something, or you are sad, or you're struggling, or you need something, I don't feel a compulsion to do a lot of things for you to connect with you. I just want to make you happy. Even if it's for a moment. If I can make you laugh, if I can take some of the emotional tension or bring some emotional relief to you, then I feel satisfied. And so it can look like helping. Like, would this bring relief to you if I watched your kids today? Like, would that make you happy? Would that help you feel lighter and be okay?
Yeah.
So helping can come in that form. But it's not because I need you to be grateful or I need this connection to continue. Like, I will happily watch your children for you and then never talk to you again if I'm just not feeling this vibe, But I don't need the connection to go on and on forever. But I do really, really want you to be okay. Does that make sense?
It makes all the sense in the world. The behavior, what I'm hearing is that the behavior may be real similar. And so those who know Enneagram, they may look at you and how you engaged other people and say, oh yeah, she's being helpful. Look at how she's moving into these spaces and elevating everything. So 2-ish. And yet it's coming from a very different motive. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. And also I think I threw people off because I cry a lot.
Okay.
I really enjoy my emotions. And I think that's a question we can ask about 7s is like, if 7s are striving to feel excited, one thing that can be really exciting is emotions. Mm-hmm. You can really spend a lot of time being curious about your emotions or other people's emotions, and it can be a source of incredible intellectual stimulation to explore emotions. And I think that often gets, and not all 7s, I think, are necessarily fascinated by emotions. So I think maybe my particular flavor of 7 is like, this is something I'm really curious about, and this is something I'm really fascinated by, and it just gets those mental juices flowing for me, whereas other 7s might get excited about other things that are less emotionally driven. But anytime emotions come up, we tend to just be like, heart triad. Right. Are they 2, 3, or 4? So just things to be aware of,
Is it the case that when you are coming to emotions that you feel most comfortable thinking about the emotions as opposed to feeling the emotions, or do you feel like you have a good feeling for your feelings, as it were?
I like to figure out my emotions.
Yeah.
I like to figure out what's causing this, where it's coming from. Is it valid? Is it misguided? Am I being manipulative? Am I, my brain will just go to, what is this all about? What is happening here? I'm crying. What's going on there? And it does become an intellectual exercise. And I do feel like there is a way that I gain a sense of control over, emotions are wild, right? Mm-hmm. Emotions are really can be very chaotic. And so I think exercising that curiosity around my emotions gives me a sense of control. And if I can know where this is coming from, then I can decide if I want to let it continue or if I want to shut it down.
Love that.
And especially as a person, I'm coming to know myself as needing safety and security. This wasn't a part of myself that I really understood. And I think it's because I was raised with a great deal of safety and security. So it wasn't something I needed to question. And then you get into your adult life and you start to experience things that challenge your sense of safety and security. And I'm just finally at a point in adulthood where I'm going, whoa, I really underestimated how fixated I am on safety and security and stability. And not that isn't a human thing. It's completely a human thing to need safety and security. But yeah, if I feel unsafe emotionally, then I will just yeah, we're going to compartmentalize that. We're going to deal with that later. That does not need to come up right now. And I think that can be a huge strength in keeping me emotionally healthy and safe. And sometimes I can misuse that and not process things when they need to be processed.
Yeah. That feels like another thing that would masquerade as two-ness, that it's not really about my emotions. What about your emotions?
Right.
For different reasons, the thrust of attention is going outward. That's good. I've heard a handful of sevens say that they are oblivious to their fear, or like didn't realize they were anxious at all.
Yeah.
And I love that you are using the word stability, because that, I think, is closer in kind of where sevens will start to feel the pull of needing to know where provision is coming from. Am I wrong there? Is that on your radar?
Yeah, and I'm glad that word resonated, that you picked up on that word too, because when I said it, it was just like ping, like, yeah, something in my whole body just went, stability. You are craving that all the time, day in, day out. And it's interesting, kind of humorous to me, the ways that I sort of upset my own stability, with some of my just default behaviors when I'm not being really conscious. I upset my own stability, and then I have to like recalibrate, restabilize. So yeah, it's been really interesting, really digging into this new type, and not new, but you know what I mean? It's new in my awareness.
Totally. I'll come back to the 2-7 story, but you've put your thumb on something that I've wanted to ask sevens for a bit. We had pivoted off of using security and stability as the primary motivators for sevens, because a lot of folks, either they're not aware of it or it doesn't resonate as hard. And we pushed into certainty. The 5, 6s, and 7s as a triad are looking for certainty. Yeah. Do those go together in your mind? One, and two, do you resonate harder with stability or certainty more than the other?
Yeah, I think about certainty. The word certainty, gosh, I do feel like they're, at least as I'm feeling and sensing those words, they feel like they feed into each other. But I don't know that I need intellectual certainty, philosophical certainty, theological. Like, I don't feel the pull towards being dogmatic. Does that make sense? Like, I don't,
it does.
I love mystery. I love to wonder. But I do need the certainty that comes from stability when it comes to relationships and just my normal day-to-day life. And I think that it's because, well, we all need that, for just basic nervous system regulation. But I often think about the Enneagram is just like, your type is, one way to talk about it, in my opinion, is that's how your nervous system gets regulated. When I'm able to feel excited about what I'm doing, when I'm able to feel an immense amount of joy and pleasure and happiness, my whole nervous system just feels like it falls into alignment, not necessarily because it's the most healthy that my nervous system is, but because that's the pattern that it recognizes, This is what has worked so many times before, and this is what we're doing again, and we recognize it. So there's a certain calmness and regulation in the nervous system. And so when there's certainty, I feel like I am regulated enough to actually go after those things that feel exciting to me, or I'm able to relax into, everybody's taken care of. All my relationships are okay. So now I can actually do what I want to do. I can withdraw and be alone and work on this Sudoku puzzle that I've been like walking past on my dining room table, and I keep wanting to sit down and just get lost in it, but like the dog needs me, the kids need me, I've got to go to, all these things that just feel like kind of in the way of getting what I want. But when everything is stable, everyone's okay, I can really trust that all of those things are in place, then I feel relaxed and free to do what I want to do. So there's a lot of motivation and energy in creating stability so that I can make excitement and fun for myself.
Yeah. Last question on this, because I suppose for some of us who are not sevens, the language of stability feels like it wouldn't naturally fit with a seven, because sevens seem to be so adventurous, and that seems like the opposite of stability.
Yeah.
Do those go together in your mind?
Adventurous and stability?
Yeah. Like, can you be stable in motion?
Yeah, it's the stability feeds the adventure. Like, and maybe this isn't for every seven, but for me, like, I'm gonna have so much more fun on that trip if I am not worried that it's breaking the bank.
There it is.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so I have a situation right now where I'm just like, ooh, I really have to decide between this is something I've really been looking forward to, potentially saying no to it, because it'll probably be fine, right? It'll probably be okay. It'll all probably work out. I have that experience to draw from, right? It just works out.
Yeah.
But will I actually feel more excited in the long run if I say no to something I'm looking forward to create long-term stability for myself, right? Maybe that is actually the path to long-term excitement and sort of a lower rumbling excitement that is a stabilizing kind of excitement, not a flash in the pan excitement.
That's well said. I have a buddy who's a seven who seems to be routinely making huge financial plays that center on debt. And I feel like a lot of his, as you're kind of saying, the stability that he finds for the adventures that he has and the business enterprises he has, it's actually the assets that he's borrowing against. Like, he really thinks hard about these assets. These are stable. And when I pull cash out to do these monstrous fun things, and he may be pulling cash out for all sorts of stuff. It may not just be businesses. It may be vacations and bigger cars and all the rest. But at the end of the day, those real estate holdings, those have body and grounding. And because they have body and grounding, I can do the other things.
Yeah.
Would that resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he sounds like a really good example of a seven who's thinking through things and thinking about not how he can just shut down that need and that drive, but how he can actually feel more of it in a way that is sustainable.
Right. Correct.
And healthy and adaptive.
Yep.
Yeah.
This also, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I want to talk about typing again, but this is why the move to one in stress makes so much sense, because in that move, is it not the case that you're like, I need to really focus hard on those foundational matters. I need to bring order to these matters.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that a lot of times sevens get portrayed in the literature as like the wild girl at the party, like the one who's dancing drunk on the table, and like stuff like that. But that line to one really does give this, like, I need to be good. I want to be the straight A student. I want to make my parents proud of me. I want to be the one who brings joy and happiness to others. And sometimes that comes through that line to one.
Right.
If I am being good and perfect and behaving well and doing what's expected of me, then people around me will be really happy.
Yeah. It gives you the grounding.
Yeah.
To push. That's good.
And then when they're happy, they let me do what they want, what I want to do.
There you go.
They leave me alone so I can do what I want.
All the opportunities. So funny. So you're walking through the world as a 2, what was the thing where you paused and said, this actually isn't right?
I think there were so many things. I mean, I questioned it from the beginning.
Okay.
Whenever 2s got talked about as being intellectually repressed or like ineffective thinkers, inefficient thinkers, I was like, 2 things came up for me. Was the idea that I don't think that applies to me because, first of all, I feel like my brain is a circus. I feel like it's an amusement park in there. And second of all, I would always think, well, I wonder if that's a spectrum, because efficient thinking seems to be something that you can train your brain to do. So why would that be a feature of personality? Those 2 things always came up for me, and I could never resolve them, but I was just kind of like, okay, well, whatever. I took an online test and it said I was a 2, and that seems to be pleasing to everyone around me, so we'll go with it. And then, like, every time a friend would have a baby, and I just didn't want to take them a meal, or I'd get, like, that link for the meal train for someone, like, had surgery or whatever, I was like, oh, I gotta cook a meal for somebody? Like, is there... Thank God for the gift card option. Thank God for the DoorDash option where I can just, like, send you a DoorDash gift card in the mail and I don't have to set foot in a kitchen for you. And I was just like, I wonder if other 2s... Is this, like, a secret that 2s have where we really don't like helping other people? And we're all just pretending that we like it or something? Because I didn't resonate with that aspect of... There were some people that if you need something from me, I'm there for you. Like, I've got your back. Don't worry about it. But it wasn't just this compulsive, like, I need to. And I do think, I will say the helping part, I think, is a mischaracterization for 2s, period. I think we should sort of consider that all 9 types like to be helpful. In situations. And so maybe that language could be expanded when it comes to 2s, or clarified, so that we don't just see people helping and think 2, So there's that. But I do think that 2s have a unique way of, or they have a particular compulsion toward feeling connection through helping.
Yeah.
And I just never felt like I want to help you so that we can be best friends forever, or so that I can feel emotionally close to you.
Yeah, helping by its nature is behavior.
Right.
But the motive, what's the motive there?
Right.
And do you feel a compulsion, I assume that's true, to be needed? Do you feel like you need to be needed at all? Did that language ever resonate with you?
I noticed it in my parenting. I felt a tremendous amount of joy when my kids were independent, or when they disagreed with me, or when they tried something risky. I care very much about what best practices are in parenting when it comes to discipline, health, bedtime routines, all those sorts of things. Best practices matter to me, but I am not what you would call a helicopter parent. Like, I love to see them taking risks and individuating, and I love to give them their space and watch them kind of become. And I have my oldest son, he's displaying a lot of 5-ish features, and I don't feel like that withdrawal scares me or threatens my sense of being connected to him. I just have always felt like I understood him. Like, I just understand that you're overwhelmed and you need to be alone right now, and I support that. And that was something that I wasn't really seeing in other people that identified as 2s. They just seemed to be a lot more content to be either stay-at-home moms or with their kids all the time, or planning highly connective activities with their kids. And I just was like, yeah, like, I love my kids, but I want to go on a week-long trip with my girlfriends too, and I feel zero guilt about being gone for a week. Except that my husband may have been a little stressed. And then I was like, oh, but you know what? You're going to be fine. This is good for you. look at the connection you're building with your kids. And I'd reframe it in my mind, and just be like, it's fine. Everybody's fine. I'm going to go have my good time.
If I were you in that situation, I would say, look how healthy of a 2 I am. My thinking is completely solid. And I want to go on these trips without everyone.
I totally
so
did.
Healthy.
I was so adaptive as a 2. Look at my boundaries, everybody.
So look at my boundaries.
Maybe that's why my teaching in the Enneagram world felt so great, because I was like, everyone should be like me. I'm such a great 2. Let me tell you how to be a better 2. Oh, embarrassing.
Well, I assume there's a downside here. But over this time, when you're doing work, you're doing 2-ish focus work and thriving at it. I assume the work that needs to be done as a 7 maybe back burner. Since you discovered your 7-ness, what are some of the things that have been kind of front and center? It's like, oh, that needs attention.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's stick with the kids since we're kind of there right now anyway.
Yeah, how old are your kids? 1 kid? 5 kids? How many kids?
3 kids. They're 14, 12, and 10.
Perfect.
Yeah. They are perfect. Yeah, I noticed this moment after I embraced the 7 within, and my son was he was upset about something, my youngest, my 10-year-old, and he will it's like he's calm as a cucumber, and then this rage flares up out of nowhere, and you're just like, whoa. And he was really, really angry about something that happened. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was like present to that anger for like 30 seconds. And then I was like, but you know what? You have a birthday party you get to go to on Saturday. Mm. And I heard it come out of my mouth and I went, whoa. And then I had to start thinking, how long have I been doing that with them? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like I'm not scared of their big emotions. I don't feel like I need to fix them. But what actually came out of my mouth was I wanted to reframe his experience because I wanted to stop his suffering. And so, yeah, that was a huge moment for me where I was just like, okay, I can see in the past, and then my daughter will sometimes say to me things because she's almost a teenager and she's getting to the point where, it's the individuation process, and I've seen how I'm like my mother for all these years, and now I want to see how I'm different from her. And so a lot of those themes are emerging in our conversations, and she'll often reference like, I don't seem moved, or I just seem kind of flat. Mm-hmm. And so then I can go, okay, I can think to those moments and go, my brain is on hyperdrive. My wheels are turning and I'm thinking, what does she need from me right now? What's the best response? My brain's going crazy, but what she sees is my face kind of go vacant. And so there are things like that I'm going, these are probably patterns that have always existed, but I didn't know how to pay attention to them before. And now I can kind of get intentional about noticing those moments and responding more appropriately in a way that feels better to them instead of what my knee-jerk impulsive need is in that moment.
Yeah. I have assumptions going through my head as you're talking that if I understood myself as a 2, I would, in all of these moments, kind of read that story into my behavior and what I should do. Whereas what I'm hearing there is that you are in the middle of life is happening and you experience something, and then that's actually where you're like, oh, there's the type. And you had done this study, I assume, on this kind of how 7s function, but all of a sudden it's one of those I'm wearing these clothes kind of experience. Yeah. Yeah,
that's a really good way to say it. It does sneak up on me in my day-to-day life. And I do tend to use the word embarrassing a lot, but those are moments I do feel embarrassed. I'm like, how did I not see this before? How did I miss this?
Yeah.
And then the shame kind of creeps in, where I'm just like, well, maybe I'm not good at this work at all. Maybe I'm not a very self-aware person at all. Maybe I should just give up entirely on everything. And, the spiral, right? But I think that normalizing in our community, I think normalizing the typing process as taking a very, very long time.
That's really valuable. It's because you're trying to teach somebody a language. Here's the language of your inner self. And the way you get into this language is first you find your type. And then once you understand your type, you get what type is, and then you apply it to everyone else.
Right.
And that's not at all how some people's experience works.
Yeah, I love that you said it that way, because it does take years to become fluent in a language.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I'm like, donde es el baño? You know, I speak Spanish, right? But I'm just asking the same one question all the time, right? I am not fluent. I have to speak it, to live it. I have to live in this environment. I have to practice this language with other people. And then oh gosh, this language metaphor is so great, Jeff. Good job. Because then there's even like, you know, little like culturally contextual parts of the language that you don't really know until you're in the environment, and then you can feel the nuances, and the nuances start to lift, and you're like, oh, I never saw that until I was out in the field, when I was sitting in the desk learning proper grammar for this language, right? That is not the same thing as being in the field and really, really being fluent. That's been a 10-year journey for me, you know? Yeah. And I'm not even scratching the surface, I think.
The thing that you have that a lot of us don't have, especially those who are teaching Enneagram, is something that I see we have a good friend, Michael Shahan, who likewise mistyped. I don't know if you know Michael.
I know of him, but I didn't know he mistyped.
So he typed as a 9, and he's a professional therapist working with Enneagram counseling. So to talk about his own experience of, as you were kind of saying, like the shame of, like, I didn't even get myself right kind of thing. But he comes to 6ness, which is his type, with crazy clarity, because he learned the language ahead of time and then found his type, as opposed to so many of us who we find our type, and through that we begin to experience the language. Yeah. And so for both of y'all, coming at that from a different angle creates a different kind of clarity in terms of talking about your type that I don't think a lot of other people have when talking about their 1ness or their 3ness or whatever. Yeah. I meant to drive towards a question there. Apparently that was just a statement.
It's a great statement. I loved it.
Well, you will have forward-looking tools, so this can be helpful. As you're thinking about things now, in terms of, because this has been so recent, do you have kind of images in your mind of, here are things I need to explore to learn more about 7ness? Or does it feel like you kind of have everything kind of in hand and are just kind of letting it doing its thing now?
Oh, this is a good question. I didn't feel the need to really do shadow work before.
Right.
And now I'm like, okay, I think that there's a lot that I've hidden away unconsciously. Yeah, that I think is what's next for me. And I've started listening to more of Carl Jung's work, and also Sarah Jane Case. Her podcast, Rest in Peace, explores shadow stuff in more layman's terms. And so those are 2 places that I'm starting with shadow work. I'll take any suggestions, because that feels scary and elusive to me. Yeah. And maybe it does to everybody, but yeah, that's kind of my first step. What I'll say is I haven't put a lot of pressure on myself to dive into the literature. Like what I did as a type 2 was I went and I read that chapter in every book. Right. And I sort of like devoured the information. And now, you know, almost a decade later, I feel like there's some wisdom that's come into place where it's like, I recognize now that I'm not a project. And so I wanted to intentionally do it in a more slower, gentler way this time, with just being easier on myself.
Yeah.
So I'm really Did you hear that deep breath as I even said that? Because I'm like, yeah, like, okay, so let's just take a deep breath and just be who you are, because I'm just being the same person I've always been. I'm finding a new way to talk about it. Hopefully a more effective and helpful way to talk about it. That's going to lead me to my next season of growth.
That's a stellar answer. And it's actually really affirming. The project that we're going to start here in a couple months is on steps. Like, what do you do with Enneagram? Here's your type. And our first one is just to know your type. Our second is to talk to other people about it. But our third step is you jump into the shadow work. So you're affirming that at least intuitionally might be a good next step if that's where you are in your process. So so I want to affirm that. That's a great place to go.
Thanks. And I want to affirm your guys' work at Around the Circle with being practical. I think that's really needed right now. So yeah, thanks for your attention to that.
I feel like I'm real bad actually on that front. So I'm thrilled that you think
that philosophy brain is like,
it's just all ethereal. But yeah, if it's not sticky and it doesn't like get into your bones and behavior, then what's it for anyway? Yeah. Well, excellent. I suppose just to wrap here, for those who are in that spot of, I think I might be something else, are there any places that you would go on that front? Like, what are some of the clues to look for, or what are some of the tools to use in that space?
Oh, the first thing I would say is don't do it alone. Yeah. Like, my wise friends were such a huge part. They really were the people who brought this to me in the first place and just said, so we've been noticing, and they really took their time with that. They had been noticing for 1.5 years, almost 2 years, things that were not adding up and weren't aligning with type 2. And they were very careful with me and very kind and gentle. And so that was a model, I think, for how I wanted to continue forward with myself. Yeah. And so I don't do it alone, whether it's that you get a coach, hire an Enneagram coach, or maybe you have, if you're in the Enneagram field and you have people who know this tool really well, and you can say, hey, can we have a conversation? What do you see? What are some of the things that you see in me? And I'm kind of wrestling between these two types, and find somebody who can ask great questions, and help you dig deeper. And don't rush it. Don't pressure yourself. Like, it is never a healthy move to figure out the next label you can slap on your forehead. That is never going to bring you the peace that you're looking for. I promise. You're just you. And to go back to that language analogy, keep speaking the language, keep trying it out, keep being in the field of your day-to-day life and noticing what emerges. And I think, for me, noticing that moment where my reframe of the birthday party for my 10-year-old was it was just like what the heck, Mom? Like, what? This is like, why are you even saying that to me right now? It didn't feel right, like what are those kinds of moments where you're like, record scratch, like, what's happening here? And it can just be a 30-second curious moment. And that's all it needs to be. Yeah. And then as you're curious, the patterns will emerge. And it'll take months and it'll take years. And that's okay. That's okay. And if you're on your deathbed and you're like, I don't know if I'm a 9 or a 2, like, who cares? Who cares?
It's not one of those entry point into heaven things you need to check off your bucket list.
Not yet.
St. Peter saying you don't have the sticker on your forehead. This was a requirement.
Exactly.
I love that the label on your forehead isn't going to bring you inner peace. This is a good thing to think on. Lindsey, it's been a delight talking to you. Yeah. Where can folks find you if they want to connect? Because you're doing some great Enneagram stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, we're excited about this season of Fathoms. You can find us. Our website is fathomspodcast.com, and you can listen to Fathoms and Enneagram podcast just on any podcast platform. You can find us on Instagram at fathoms.enneagram, I think.
Come on.
I think that's it. Fathoms.enneagram. I'm on Instagram at Lindsey Faith DM if you want to follow me or message me about coaching or chatting about mistyping, anything like that.
Lindsey, it's been a delight having you. So I'm cheering for your work. I'm cheering for your kids. I'm cheering for your future. And I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, you're cheering for me. That sounds very 7.
I mean, I'm in a secure space right now, one that I am. So.
Thanks so much, Jeff. It was a really good time.
Excellent. I'm Jeff Cook. Hey, friends, who you aren't just isn't interesting.